you're probably way more creative than you think. Just be willing to try things.
You're never going to reach perfection anyway.
It's really not about us. And that same week, I was wearing a WWJD bracelet. One of the guys on the team asked me what WWJD stood for. We realized that this little bracelet with 4 letters got us into conversations with our classmates. It would open a door for us to be like, this is what the Bible says, like sin separates us from God. Like he loved us before we could love him. And he does want to be your friend. And he's also a God that's bigger than the universe.
Have you ever thought of quitting?
There's so many times where we're like, maybe we should just like call this quits.
What stopped you from doing that?
I think,
Well, Casey, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for giving me some of your time. I'm excited to talk more about just your business and your life and everything in between. So obviously a lot of people like your brand and what you stand for, but I know there's a lot more to that too.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to talk about that. But
yeah, dude, thank you for having me on. This is so sweet. So,
yeah, my aunt and uncle's house. Yeah, it acts as a great
sick
studio.
Yeah, so sick. Unfortunately, my wife isn't here. The people would really like to hear from her, but
yeah.
A bit of the suspense, maybe
Cat next time.
Yeah,
we'll get you on.
She's with the baby
she's
now.
A new mom.
Yeah, with the baby now, she's like,
it.
Hot demand. So
yeah,
but yeah,
there's someone else that's needing all of that attention.
Yeah, dude.
So,
dude,
which it makes sense. Yeah. My mom had 10 kids, so I definitely know how it goes.
Dude, how spread out?
Oh, dude, mostly like 2 years apart. So age range is like 15 to 33, I think.
Dude, that is.
Yeah. I'm right in the middle. I'm number 5. Yeah, sandwich.
I joke with Kat because now that we have our baby boy, I'm like, I want as many kids as I can possibly get.
Yeah?
Yeah. So obviously I'm like, how many are you thinking, But it's like the best thing ever. So I'm like, how many is possible? So 10.
10's a lot. It's a commitment.
Yeah,
ask my dad, bro.
Yeah,
it's a commitment.
That is crazy though.
Yeah. I mean, he's a network engineer. He makes a good salary, but stretch thin when you got 10 mouths to feed. That's what he always says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different energy levels.
But it's worth it too. I mean, dude,
yeah.
I mean, he took that verse that talks about like having the quiver full of arrows.
Dude.
He took it seriously.
Dude, he's going to have the most fulfilled life for the rest, like
he does.
Holidays and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, man, that's
especially when we all start pumping out grandkids.
Dude.
Like right now it's just my older sister, 2 nephews, like that. That's it. But once we get rolling, I feel like the blessings are just gonna
multiply. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah, and he deserves it too. Well, not deserves. Obviously we don't deserve anything, but he deserves it. Just not a more faithful man of God, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Than anybody. I don't tell him that much, but if you're listening, Dad, you are, and I admire you for it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, seems like it. That's amazing.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, so he's awesome. Definitely someone I look up to. But yeah, welcome guys to another podcast. And if you've listened for a while, you kind of know like what we talk about, just all things creative, all things faith-based, not everything, but just like how do our lives and how do our relationships with God kind of like intertwine. And I mean, it's named Created to Create for a reason, and so I think like that's mostly what we talk about. And so it's just exciting to be here. Jump into your business really quick. Just talk a little bit about the beginnings of it, because you were in college, right?
Yeah,
like when you first started.
Yeah. I like our story because I think it's different in the sense that like we didn't mean to, start a business. So the full story kind of background is like I grew up in the church and I had 2 sisters, one older, one younger. And I kind of had like that perfect child syndrome type, like had to get everything right. Yeah. Kind of had my identity in that. And I'm thankful for a lot of that time, and God did a lot in me. And then in college, it got like really, really hard. I was challenged with a lot of questions and had atheist friends that really peppered me with, and I had no community. And
you didn't go to like a Christian university, did you?
Yeah, no, I played soccer in college, so it was just, at like a Division II school my first 2 years. And I just like got back to ground zero and had an encounter with the love of God and like things I'd heard all my life, like God loves you, and just like simple things were just like groundbreaking. Like I got to know the Lord for myself. And so fast forward, like I said, I played soccer in college, and when you're in a locker room of a bunch of guys that don't necessarily, they're not Christians and they don't know much about Jesus, you're always trying to like look different and be different and start conversations, and you get little, conversations and things that you can say and you feel like you're getting somewhere. And I remember one week there was like those hate preachers on campus that like yelled just like crazy things. And I remember all my teammates like coming into the locker room and talking about the things that were being said that were just like crazy. And I remember being like, wait, no, like all my, where I've got like talking to these guys, I feel like just
out the window.
Yeah. And
you're putting in all this work, like basically building relationships with them, actually like loving them and stuff. And just one.
And
it's tough.
And that same week I was wearing a WWJD bracelet, and one of the guys on the team asked me what WWJD stood for. And I grew up in the Bible Belt, so like everyone knows what would Jesus do is. It's just like
it's just unspoken,
it's just kind of a conversation starter. You've always heard it.
Eat Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, exactly. And so he was like from a different country and he'd never seen it before, so he asked me, and I was like, oh, it stands for what would Jesus do? And I just remember him like looking at me kind of like as if I was not done talking, like what what would he do? Like he had no grid for who Jesus was or what he did or the gospel or anything. And so he was like, it looked like he was going to say like, what would Jesus do? And turn it back on me. And so in my head, I was like, what's my answer going to be? Like, how do I keep this conversation going and point back to the gospel of while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And when we needed God to move and his love to move toward us because we couldn't move towards him, like, how do I tell this story? And so in my head, I'm just like dialoguing really fast. And then he just kind of said, okay, cool. And like conversation ended. But I left that conversation realizing like grew up, like I said, in the Bible Belt, in church, always seeing what would Jesus do. But it honestly never really was used to start conversation outside of the church, like people who didn't have a grid for what Jesus did. So I left that and just kind of like told my friends, like, dude, what if there was a bracelet that like kept that conversation going, answered the question. And so we were just talking about it, like we could do He Would Love First, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And so it was just kind of like, oh, cool, whatever. And then I remember actually like I was doing like homework or something, and I sketched it up and like Snapchatted it to my sister, like a little sketch drawing. I think you can find it on our website. It's so funny to look back at. But and she like screenshot it, sent it back to me. I was like, this is actually a cool idea. So shout out my sister. No credit. But and so we're just like, okay, let's just try and find a manufacturer that makes bracelets and just put
super simple, not
HWLF on it. And so we had these made, and it was like a few $100s to get a batch of them, which is a lot when you're in college.
Oh, a lot, yeah.
On something that's like, I don't even know what it is. And
do you know who, sorry to interrupt, do you know who made the original WWJD bracelet?
Yeah. So it's a long story, and we can get into that.
I haven't researched it, so I'm not sure.
So, and we had to look into this for like, were we stealing some idea?
Yeah.
So it was.
I'm wearing one of yours right now.
Yeah.
And it has the WWJD and the He Would Love First, because obviously like that's your goal.
Yeah.
So
yeah. People ask me all the time, like, are you stealing, trademark, whatever.
Yeah.
To answer that question, it was originally in a book called In His Steps, I believe.
Okay.
Like a while ago, in like the 40s, maybe, I don't know. And it was like the premise, this whole church just decided to make every decision based off of what would Jesus do. And then in like the 80s, there was a girl in like Wisconsin who had like 10 bracelets made for her small group.
Okay.
And the people that made them realized it was a good idea and sent it to like trade shows and stuff and just started selling them like crazy. I think in like the 80s and 90s, there was like 40 million bracelets sold.
I'm not surprised.
And
everybody I knew had one.
Yeah. And it was like it was honestly a movement, people, and it's an awesome, cool thing to want to be like Jesus and have these bracelets that, start that conversation. But she was just trying to give it to her small group of 10. And then it blew up. So it became public domain because they sold so fast before anyone could trademark it.
I was about to say, like, I think that was probably the coolest thing growing up and seeing them.
Yeah.
Is nobody knew where they came from.
Yeah.
It was just, like you said, it was a movement.
Yeah.
And everybody was just like, yeah, identify with it, obviously.
Yeah. Bible bookstore type.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it since so many got out so fast, I think she ended up trying to trademark it just so that it didn't get abused. And it's public domain because there's so many.
That's
now.
cool.
So yeah. But yeah, so once
I think it should be public domain.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Did you guys end up trademarking He Would Love First as well, or did you leave?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out. We're working on it because obviously, like I said, it can be abused and used in different ways and stuff. So we're trying to figure that out right now.
It's like find the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
You're not yourself trying to abuse it, but
yeah, exactly.
Also, trying to protect it.
Right. So, but yeah, so we had these bracelets made, and we were just like, let's, I don't know, pass them out and give them to people. So we started giving them to our teammates, like we, originally had that conversation.
Yep.
And we found ourselves like in conversations with our teammates that we would, otherwise kind of struggle to get into, like, hey, this bracelet's kind of cool, like whatever. And then it would open a door for us to be like, like this is what the Bible says, like sin separates us from God. Like he loved us before we could love him. And like, it just got us into the gospel conversation, and we were able to point back to the cross. And people on our team are like, dude, I didn't realize this. Like, I'd never heard this. I'd never heard the story of Jesus,
That's
like,
crazy.
And we weren't trying to do anything new. Like, we're not trying to say a new message or like, oh, we figured it out
you have the new gospel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think we've got to be careful of that. Like, we're just trying to use something that was a massive, there's already a landing strip for it. And we're just trying to use it to continue this conversation. Yeah. Like, he loved us while we were still sinners. And like, what are you going to do with that love?
Yep.
Are you going to accept the invitation? So yeah, we realized that this little bracelet with 4 letters got us into conversations with our classmates and our teammates. And then we'd have people reach out and be like, hey, my small group wants 20 of them. How much? And we'd be like, $40,
Yeah.
We could buy more. So then we sold out of those once we posted on Instagram. So then we bought more. And then we're like, I guess we got to make a website. And like, when I say we had no idea what we were doing, like we were licking envelopes, writing people's address, like no idea. There was no like,
it worked.
Dude. Yeah. And I think we always joke cause it's like God was using the 3, it's like, it was started with 3 guys. Now it's 4, guys that had the least like business savvy. Like maybe we were creative, but it's not like we had some go-to-market strategy and here's, all of we just like figured things out. It's literally like, if we could do it, it has nothing to do with any of our skill. But yeah, we just figured it out. And I had like, I think a year and a half left of school and playing soccer in college. So I was just like keeping it alive, until I got out of school.
I think it's cool too, though, because you're stepping out in faith. You're not basically putting together a real business plan where you're in charge of it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you were just following like what God had laid on your heart to do. So it wasn't this like, oh, I'm a Christian and like a bunch of other Christians are definitely going to relate to this. So I'm going to like capitalize on that and make something that, everybody's going to get behind, and it's going to become this big movement. You're just like, this is on my heart for myself, in conversations that I'm having, I'm just going to do it. And then you naturally reacted to the demand that rose from that. Yeah. Because obviously it's like, it's on everybody else's heart too. So as it should be, as Christians, like I think the questions that you address are like super valuable to address, because not many people do know the answer to that question. Yeah. Or they don't even know the actions that follow that answer. Yeah. Like He would love first. What does that even mean? Yeah. How do you love someone first? Yeah. And how do you love someone like Christ loved you? Right. In a legitimate way. Yeah. But I think your brand and what you guys pursued after actually did answer that question. And I mean, I've seen even from just people that I know that are aware of it, they're their hearts are like changed, not just because of it, but it definitely helps.
Right.
You know, it points you back to the Bible, and the Bible's the place where you actually learn how to carry that love out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like when we were starting, like I remember, because like overall message wise, like I said, we want to point people back to the cross and give the whole gospel message of, you know, what Jesus did on the cross. And like, but I think another thing that like, I feel like God was like challenging me with at the time is like, I remember, it's like just being challenged with wanting to be right, you know, even if I was right. Like if I saw someone in sin or I wanted to call someone out on whatever lifestyle or whatever it is, calling people out on calling people higher and things like that can be the most loving thing to do. Like we don't sacrifice truth for anything like that. But like a lot of times I would be like, oh, I got them. Like I can like flex my spiritual muscles and like, why am I saying that? Like, why do I want to call them higher? Is it because I genuinely will the good for them? Like the highest good for them. Like I want the best for them. And therefore I'm going to, you know? And so like a lot of times people will think like, you know, just always be nice or make whatever's like lovely. And like, sometimes it's telling a friend like, hey, I think that, you know, you need to check on this in your life. Yeah. But like, why are you saying that? Like, are you genuinely doing it from a place because God's, you know, moved your heart? And so, yeah, like I think it being a challenge for believers, first off, to be reminded that when you were a sinner deserving nothing, like his love moved first. But then also like in your heart, like, do you care for people that, do you care for the lost? Like, or is it just to look like you have more spiritual moxie or whatever it is, you know?
I was going to add and say it's always contextual. It's always, you're always using discernment. Yeah. Like Jesus was always using discernment as he walked through his ministry and his life. Like he had a different, it's like he had a different approach, but same answer to everybody. Like you come back to the love of God, the actual love of God with everybody, but it becomes a different approach based off of where the other person's at too. Yeah. Because you can't just, you know, if you have someone that's like really struggling in a certain area and then you in an area where maybe coming down on them and like just being blunt with them would throw them into a frenzy, then that's probably not the best thing to do. You know,
yeah, for sure.
It's probably better to not sugarcoat it, but to just lead with love. Yeah. And lead with more of that happy-go-lucky type love and encouragement before you jump into like what's wrong.
Yeah. And it definitely like I think I have to be careful that I don't pit God's love against his truth, because if you take truth outside of love, you probably don't have love anymore. And so they're not like mutually exclusive, you know, they like are, they go hand in hand.
Because why is that? Why if you take the truth out?
Because I think if you take truth out of love, you can just have delusion. Like there's no grounding, you know, like, and we see it today. Like you see people just like the live your truth movement, and like there's nothing. And I think our culture is getting seasick from it because there's nothing solid. There's nothing to look at. It's just like love is this flimsy, do whatever you want, like more what feels good for you doesn't feel good for me, and it's like the love is absolutely nothing. Like if it's moldable and can change and doesn't have any ground, then like
that's how you can manipulate it.
Yeah, you can manipulate it, and then it's like what is love? It's literally nothing. It's Play-Doh. Like you can make it whatever you want it to be, and so. Yeah, I think
Play-Doh was fire, by the way.
Play-Doh was just gonna throw that out there. I loved Play-Doh. But yeah, I think that, and I think that like our culture, like I said, it's like if you've ever been on a boat before where everything's like moving and everything's fluid and you're just there's nothing firm to look at. Like even the boat you're on is moving around and you're just like, dude, I gotta get on some solid ground. That's what I feel like our culture's at, where it's like we need like solid truth. In love, you know, in the same way, because they, like I said, they go hand in hand. Speak the truth in love. Like there's a reason why those are hand in hand. And so yeah, like I said, I think that like our culture is seasick because everything's moving and fluid, and God's love is firm and solid, and you can search the scriptures to actually see what love is, you know, in the person of Jesus. So
yeah. What would be the opposite end of that? Like truth without love? What would that kind of look like?
What do you mean? So like basically you have truth, you have love, you know, the goal is to mold both of them perfectly. That's what Jesus did. Right.
But what does it look like to have like truth without love? Like, I mean, in simplest terms for me, I look at it and I'm like, someone just maybe yelling or speaking bluntly at me.
Right. Yeah.
What they're saying is true, but it's not.
That's a good question. And I think that that's kind of what I mean when I say like, because I wanted to be right. Like I grew up with all the answers. Okay. And even if I was saying something right, I was saying it because I wanted people to see that I had the right answer. Even if it was at the expense of someone being embarrassed or like someone, like I could say something that they're not even going to take. It's not going to be effective for them at all. I was just
pride
like
attached to it.
I was like, oh yeah, exactly. You're selfish, you're self-seeking. And so, yeah, I think that you can be right and unloving, you know? And so like, if you are willing the best for someone else, you won't lie to them.
Yeah.
But also you'll say and do things because you are willing their good, their highest before your own, you know, like even if it's at your own expense, willing the highest for them. So yeah, I think
that makes sense.
The desire to just be right, you know?
Yep. Yeah. And at that point, like you said, it will be at mostly their expense. Yeah. Like you're never going to be basically put down with that.
Right. And I even remember, sorry, another little story that kind of from the beginning, like I remember seeing, like someone that I knew was like living a lifestyle, like not a good lifestyle, you know, and was living in sin. And I remember just being like, I can't like care for them too much because then they'll think like they're okay. And like, and like like my heart should have gone out to them like without thinking about myself or thinking about what I look like, or, you know, it should be, you know, I want the best for them. I want, you know, them to experience the grace that I've experienced and not be like, well, I can't, you know, get too close. And then they think that they're, you know, friends with a Christian guy and like, you know, and it's just overthinking. Like I said, you're just thinking about yourself at that point. And like, you know, selfishness is probably going to affect how you love people. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Being in the world, not of it, doesn't mean that you're necessarily encouraging or
sure. Yeah.
Like, yeah, just, it just means that you're living the truth out. You're living conviction, in conviction, but you're also not putting yourself so high that you think that you're better than anybody else.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
So you just had a kid.
I did.
So what does parenthood look like for you? Man. How are you loving it or hating it?
Yeah, dude, it is the best thing. And I feel like that's the right answer. Like everyone's like,
it is. Yeah.
It's the best. Yeah. It's so good, dude. And I was like kind of scared. Like I have a nephew I'm really close to, like me and my sister and her husband are really close, and they have 2 boys, and I'm just like best friends with her little 2-year-old and 1-year-old. And I was like, man, I'm my own kid. Like, what if I don't like feel the same connection? And like, they're just,
I hate him.
Yeah. And you just like, I don't know, there's so much expectation, and you see other people and they have, you know, you just, what is this going to be like? Yeah. Dude, it is the best thing. Like I said, like I want 8 more if we can have them, you know, like, there's we just posted a video recently of like he just learned how to laugh like in one moment. Oh my gosh, dude. Top 5 memories.
Was it something you did or Kat did?
It was me. It was just, I was just like sticking my tongue out, dude. And it was like learning how to cackle. He just learned in an instant. And it was like legit top 5 memories of my life. Like,
oh, I bet.
Cause when you're so connected and like you're there when they're crying and they're born and they're scared and just every emotion they've ever had, dude, the connection is just insane. Like, so it's been like the best thing. And it's crazy how every day changes, like gets better. And it's hard. Like there's times where you want to do what you want to do, and you can't
sacrifice.
Yeah. Which I think I've thought about this, like if love is self-sacrificing, then like having a baby has to be the next level up in growing in love, right? Because like,
Oh, sure.
everything you do is like I want to go do this thing, or I don't want to get up. I'm doing something on my computer, or whatever you want to do. Like, it's not about you. And like, that's goes for your whole life. It's actually, you're actually not made for yourself. So having a baby, like, puts that on full display in a way that's like challenging and like so amazing. So it's been the best.
What do you think about people that equate like having a baby to like having a dog?
They probably don't have a baby.
I always
dog,
see that correlation. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I know. Like Father's Day comes around,
can go and just chill.
Yeah. Like, Father's Day comes around, like Happy Father's Day.
I know, right?
To me,
I'm a dog mom.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, I don't have a dog, so
yeah,
you know, I like dogs.
Personal preference, or you just didn't have time for one, or just
I mean, I like dogs, but
yeah.
Kat was like pushing for one. I was like, let's just have a baby. Just go straight for it.
Yeah, just skip that step.
Yeah.
I feel like it'll make having a dog easier.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You'll be like, oh, I already had the baby. So like, the dog is a breeze.
Like, yeah. It's the beginner level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's just absolutely no correlation there. What's, so help me understand, because I don't really know, but do you and Kat both, does Kat like help you with the company, and to what extent, and how's like the relationship there, and how do you kind of differentiate business and personal, like marriage?
Yeah. So yeah, we had started He Will Live First like before I ever met Kat.
Okay.
And then once I met her, and you know, we got married and everything, obviously she is involved in a lot of ways. So she did the content for us for a long time, like product pictures, different types of, you know, videos and things like that. And then obviously she helps me a lot with like, I'll have ideas and she'd be like, don't do that. It's a really dumb idea. So she helps me with that kind of behind the scenes type stuff, and planning and different creative stuff, because she's just like a creative mastermind. And so, but then obviously having Arlo and her being, you know, full on postpartum and mom mode, she's kind of stepped back a little bit from that. And we're kind of getting to a point where like she can kind of start to step back into some roles and doing some content and stuff like that. So right now, mainly just helping with like creative, you know, helping me with, you know, planning and creativity and things like that. So it's
more like free flow of it. Yeah. Free flowing in some way.
With the actual like content roles, it'll be more structured and have like actual, you know, set things. But outside of that, I mean, essentially she's just, you know, she's a wife that's really good at what I do. So I just like,
she's your other half.
Yeah, dude. She helps me a ton
in personal and business.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's cool to have. I mean, it's cool to have like a union that you can kind of rely on in both areas too. Yeah, is that like, it seems like it's like helped your relationship too? Is that true? Is that a fair assessment of like even connecting on another level?
Yeah, just like working together. Yeah, I mean, it's challenging. There's definitely been times where like we, you know, don't see eye to eye with content. Like when you're married, you see things, you're like, why do we have a disagreement on this? This is so dumb. But like, you know, when you work together and you're trying to figure things out, and so we've had to learn how to work through like how she sees things creatively and content wise, and planning out together, because like obviously you have to be structured in some ways. So yeah, it's definitely helped us like you know, work through, you know, planning things together and stuff like that. So yeah, and it's just like such a honor to be able to work with your spouse, you know, like us being able to be home together and challenge each other. Like she challenges me like so much. Like I'll do something that is I could do better, or I you know didn't try all the way, or whatever it might be, and she's like, hey, you're like not trying. You know, like let's pick this up.
Do better.
Yeah, in a loving way. But yeah, no, she works, dude. She works so hard. Like she's so intentional, and so yeah, she challenges. Just watching her, I'm challenged, but she calls me higher in like so many ways. So it's awesome. It's an honor. Yeah,
that's sick. And how did you guys meet again?
So coffee shop.
Classic.
I saw her in a coffee shop. I walked in with my friend, saw her. Me and my friend sat down, and I was like, dude, that girl at the front of the coffee shop is the prettiest girl I've ever seen. And then Stephanie
Yeah.
Our mutual friend.
Shout out Steph Lee.
Shout out Steph. Big shout out, 'cause she made this connection here.
Yep.
She comes in and she was like,
by the way, I completely spaced in the beginning, but if you guys haven't made a connection already, so He Would Love First has been sponsoring this podcast. And so thank you for doing that.
Dude, thank you.
And that makes this episode extra special too, because we get to chat about not only your company, but also like, it's cool because I've gotten to see a little bit of that as well with the partnership.
Dude,
so
awesome. We're honored. Yeah. So sick. But Steph walked in, she's like, I think I know that girl at the front of the coffee shop. And I was like, really? So she introduced us. That was the first time.
Eyes just go wide.
Yeah. I was like, weird. But she introduced us. That was the day we like shook hands, met, and then like a couple DMs here and there. And then I ended up like inviting her to like the 4th of July weekend with some friends, and we had like a mutual friend dating a mutual friend. So the connection worked out, and we just drove an hour and a half. That was like the first time we hung out. Drove like an hour and a half to the lake, and then we were engaged 5 months later. I was like, I've had a crush on you for a long time, and so we're gonna go straight.
Made it happen.
We're gonna get moving here.
Yeah, you're not gonna waste any time at that point.
Yeah, dude, it was good.
What was the main thing that like attracted you to her other than just like?
Yeah, I remember she's the type where when she walks in a room, people recognize her, but notice her, especially me. Like I'm just like all eyes on her, But she's so good at like noticing everyone, and so she was just like so down to earth and like easy to talk to. Obviously, just like the prettiest girl, like I said, ever. Yeah. And so I think that she was just like so easy to talk to. She cared about people. She would genuinely like talk to you and listen. And I was just like enthralled.
There's no like passing moment that she has. It's all.
Yeah, she's so intentional. She cares so deeply about people. So I was just like, dude, this girl's way out of my league. So it was good.
I love it. Hey, Abigail, can you grab me some water, please? I'm dying over here. I don't know what got me a piece of
our love story just choked you up, dude. It's beautiful.
Bro, I'm telling you, bro.
A little dusty in here.
It's inspirational, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For a single guy like me. That's what I'm looking for.
Start going to coffee shops, bro.
I go to so many coffee shops. My problem is I go to a coffee shop and then not even a week later I'm in a different city at a different coffee shop. So there's no consistency there.
That doesn't help. Yeah, for sure.
Someday though. Someday. Yeah, hey. We'll get there.
Steph Lee, make it happen.
Yeah,
Steph made the connection for us. And she can do it again.
Queen of connections.
Yeah.
Matchmaking.
Yeah, dude.
Go to stephlee.com.
Yeah, for matchmaking.
Her new dog is so cute, by the way.
I know, dude. Is it Bomi?
Bomi or Bommy? Bomi? I think
she's definitely the dog mom for sure.
100%.
Dog mom for sure. Like,
no disrespect. No disrespect to
she's gonna be watching this podcast and be like, I'm a dog mom. Yeah. Every time we get on a meeting for work, I just hear Bomi, getting her dog. She's on every call.
That dog is either like hopped full energy or just like on the ground like a rug.
Yeah.
No middle ground.
It's fun.
No, that's super cool and adorable and cute and
it
is inspiring. I was joking, but it is inspiring.
Yeah.
I think because I don't know. I feel like that's something you want in a partner is someone who can just pull that out of you, but two, just like be intentional with like everybody. And now as a mom too, I'm sure. Like how much better of like a parent can you be when you're just automatically so intentional with people in an extroverted type of way, you know? Because I feel like we all have a level of intentionality, but it can be hard to externalize that and bring it out.
Oh yeah.
So it's those type of people are definitely special.
Yeah, for sure. She brings the best out of people.
That's
myself included. So
I love it. How do you find like creative rhythm in your work?
Yeah, and now it's different. With
I'm sure it's changed. Yeah.
Probably the biggest thing is an early alarm clock.
Okay.
Like I at least have to like wake up early and have time where he's not awake and I can actually just be quiet for a while and have that margin. But also I think for me, like, and this is, more obvious now that I'm a dad, but I think it's always been this way for me where like, I'll set aside time where I'm like, this is where I'm gonna really try and like be intentional and be creative and think through things. And sometimes it's just not like there as much as other times. And then sometimes I'm like doing something for 5 minutes and all of a sudden I feel like I'm really, what if we did this and did this? And it kind of leads into different things. And it's like, I gotta get it while it's good, stay in this little like creative moment, whether it lasts for.
They call it the flow zone.
Yeah. You get into a little flow zone.
Yeah, something like that.
Flow state. Yeah.
Flow state. Yeah. Frozone.
Yeah.
Incredibles. Where's my super suit?
Yeah. But when you do feel like you're, getting somewhere creatively, or whatever it may be, like staying in that as long as you can. And so thankfully Kat and I can kind of be like, hey, I'm like really getting somewhere. I'm getting this done or whatever it may be. Can you keep Arlo for another 10 minutes or whatever it may be? But yeah, I think just like when it is the day that you're on or you have that flow state or whatever it is, like taking advantage of it and realizing when you do have free time or flow state time, it's like as a dad, like it's going to end quick. So you have to, can't be.
So it's more so like you're in that state. Yeah, you want to stay in it, but also how do you take advantage of it and be quick with your work too, like efficient? Yeah,
being intentional. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like before, it's like you don't realize how much time you have. And like, I'll pop on Instagram for a second, like whatever. Now it's like he's napping. All right, let's move.
Chuck your phone across the room and you're just like,
So definitely being intentional and just like trying to stay in that creative space when it's there and making space for it for sure.
Do you have anything to tell like people who maybe don't view themselves as a creative? Because I think there's I talk about this sometimes, like there's a stigma around like creatives, artists, especially artists, but like now you have like your creators and creatives. Yeah. And I don't know, people can just be like, oh, well, I'm not that because I work a normal job or I do whatever. Do you have anything to say to people like that to encourage them in what they're doing?
I mean, I was probably that as well. Like I didn't really see myself as creative necessarily.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just, the same thing that you just said, I think it was just kind of like self-deprecating, like, oh, I'm just not like, maybe I had a box of what I thought creative was, like my mom was an artist, so she was the most creative. She is the most creative person I know. And so maybe I had the, preconceived like idea of what it looks like. And then I think that like, I don't know, you look down on yourself and you think things that like, even like when I first sketched up HWLF on a piece of homework, I was just like, that's just lame. Like no one's going to think that's cool or whatever. And you just kind of like self-deprecate and don't give yourself credit or, I guess you're not willing to look foolish, like I think that's probably the core of it. I was like, I don't want to embarrass myself. Like,
I don't want to make something that looks bad.
Yeah. What if this is going to be lame?
Yeah.
And so like,
I want to get laughed
you're
at.
probably way more creative than you think. Just like you might look silly. We all look silly like all the time. Yeah. Literally everyone ever is like silly depending on how you look at them.
Yep.
And so just being like, just try things. If you think something's like creative, and I have ideas all the time, like I said, where I'm like, this is probably really dumb.
Yeah. And
then Kat will be like, actually it might be a really good idea. And it ends up being a great idea, and then other times it's a terrible idea.
Do you think that's delusion? Well, like people call that delusion. It's like basically being like, oh, ignoring those thoughts of, oh, this could be dumb or this could be stupid and doing it anyway. Like what would you say to that?
There's probably a level of like, you should probably
I feel like there has to be some.
Yeah. There's some level of, this is dumb. Like don't jump off a bridge or something crazy, something risky. But yeah, as far as like being creative, like the most creative people in the world are the ones that are like, do things where at first you're like, what the heck? Like Elon Musk, like the Cybertruck was like, when that first came out, I feel like
a lot of people still clown on it.
Yeah. Everyone's like, what the heck? And you just, anything that's like top of the game creative at first is always like, that's weird. What the heck? But it's new, and it's, you know, themselves, you know, they're being authentic and not afraid to be foolish. So to answer your original question, I think like you're probably way more creative than you think. Just be willing to like try things, and like maybe, you know, maybe your t-shirt isn't as cool as you thought, and the next one will be, you know, you learn something from it. But the people that succeed, I feel like, in creativity are the ones that are willing to like, aren't afraid to look foolish, aren't afraid to fail, and will just learn from their failure and like try it again, you know, try something new next time.
No, I agree. I think too, like even relating it to faith is pretty dope, because in our relationship with God, like that's how it is. Like his grace is sufficient. So it kind of gives us room to like play around, you know, learn and grow, and like just kind of like sit in the palm of his hand, you know,
for sure.
like a little kid.
And
you don't have to have anything like perfect right off the bat. And the cool thing too is, to add to what you're saying, is you're never going to reach perfection anyway. So like, why strive for it, or why expect it in the beginning, or why stop yourself from pursuing or releasing something just because it's not perfect?
And like I said, if our story is like a testimony of anything, it's like we weren't anything special. Like we were literally just college students. Like maybe this could start conversations in a creative way, like a bracelet, you know. And it ended up, you know, we were right in some way, and so we just kind of kept learning and kept showing up, and we were available. And like you said, like, and the overarching theme is like, it's really not about us, you know. Like it's like, be creative. If God's put something on your heart, and like you feel like, first off, it's faithful to his word, and again, he put it on your heart, and you can be creative, and the only thing stopping you is like, this might be embarrassing, or people might think it's lame, then yourself is in the way, and like just, it's not about you, you know.
No.
And that's a constant. I'm not saying that I'm like perfect at like not thinking about myself. That's obviously a daily challenge for everyone 100%. Listening, myself. But I think that's like the reminder, like, you know, it's not about me looking cool or me succeeding, you know.
Exactly. I was watching a sermon today, and it was in Galatians 6:14, I think. It's the verse about like boasting in Christ and what he did on the cross, and not in my own capability or confidence or anything.
And in your weakness, like boasting in your weakness, like it's like interesting, because a lot of times you hear boast in your weakness, like, and that, you know, means to recognize that you're dead in your sin, and like but like, even like talking
directly leads to God, essentially.
Right. But even talking like about creativity and things like that, like being like, this is just me, authentically me. I'm weak. I'm not like some creative genius. Like I'm just trying to be, you know, creative and faithful, and that's what people like align with the most, because the next person listening is thinking, well, I'm not special either. Like I relate to this person, you know. So like everyone that you're marketing to or in front of you is like, they're also not perfect. They're also have weaknesses and think of things differently than everyone else. And so, I mean, it's just like, again,
you definitely connect better with that. Like you connect better with like a Mr. Beast type character who's from the beginning has just been like awkward, like down to earth, like
himself,
you know, himself. And you connect better to that than you maybe do to a, I don't know, Kim Kardashian. We'll throw that out there. Right. It's like two different personalities. And more people are going to be able to connect with and like feel like they're a part of something on this end of the spectrum. You know?
For sure.
So, but as humans, like we definitely put things on pedestals and like idolize things. So, it's just like one's full and one's empty.
You know, for sure.
When you pursue that. Have you ever thought of quitting?
Oh yeah.
burn
sure.
out.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
just, I'm done with this. Like,
Yeah.
it's too much.
I mean, yeah, especially early on, like just being like, what do I want to do this? Like people, I'm not doing well right now. Like, yeah, I mean, there were so many times, like even just, financially or like, out of college, I worked at a gym and was starting this bracelet company, whatever. Everyone's like, when are you going to stop doing that and get a job, which is natural. And I'm thinking that I'm like, is this worth it? Am I supposed to be doing this? Yeah. Like, so for sure, there's so many times where like, maybe we should just like call this quits.
Yeah.
So,
What stopped you from doing that? What kept you going?
I think, just like from the beginning, feeling like I'm doing something I believe in, like I was passionate about, like I can creatively make bracelets and t-shirts and, grow in my creativity and start conversations, make people think, put concepts on clothing, whatever. So I had a mission that I believed in. And so I think that kept me going, and just like, I guess feeling like God really called me to do that, like I was being faithful to that. And then I think that like competitively, like I said, I played soccer in college. My other business partner played soccer in college. My other business partner played college football. And so like, it was always just like, if we haven't figured it out yet, like we got to figure it out. It was just, we weren't going to stop.
It's like more of a challenge.
Yeah. We were just like going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And we're still figuring it out. Like, for sure. And I think, I don't know. I think the mentality of like, if anyone can do it, like we're going to figure it out. And every single day could be the day that you figure out whatever, you can have an idea that changes everything, whatever, so yeah, I think that just like the competitiveness, but also mainly like just believing in what we had and what we were trying to do. And doing it doing it with people. If I was doing it by myself, I probably would have quit, to be honest. Like the times that I was the weakest, my business partner were like, dude, we're going to get this done, And then when they were the weakest, I was, we just helped each other. So yeah,
It's that iron sharpens iron.
For sure, dude.
Just pulling each other
we
forward.
lived together in like his parents' basement.
Oh, that helps a lot.
Like 4 dudes, just like figuring stuff out. And like, dude, we had no idea.
Classic born out of a basement.
Yeah, dude.
Classic ideas.
Filling orders in the attic. Like, we could probably do a podcast series on our whole story. And it's like,
oh yeah,
we'll call it like what not to do. Because we had so many things. It was like, that was a terrible idea. It did not work. Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah. I think that goes back to what you were saying though about, trying something and pushing yourself to do something, even though, if you feel like it's stupid or not going to work or whatever,
right.
It's in trying that you're going to learn the lessons to be able to succeed the next time or the next time or the next time.
Yeah.
And if you didn't make those mistakes, like you wouldn't be where you're at now.
For sure.
Same thing for me, not to get into it, but like in my business, the only reason that I'm able to even do any sort of business well, whether that's client relations or just even fulfilling on an expectation that was set, setting up any sort of contract, like whatever it is because I went through situations that taught me how not to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's only because of those failures and being a part of failure that pushed me to a place where I can succeed at any capacity.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So it's definitely like super, super important.
Yeah. And maybe He Will Love First isn't the biggest thing that we ever do. Like maybe like God runs its course and he's like, okay, I want you to step into this. And it's, I learned so much from doing this, and I step into the next, like, you don't know like what God has planned, but like just being available to learn, like
that's
being in the game and showing up every day and being like, I got a lot to learn today,
That's big.
Like willing to fail. And yeah, today could be the day that I learn something new that changes what I do next or whatever it may be.
100%.
So, yeah.
Can you jump into that and speak a little bit about that? Because I think that's really, really important, to be honest. Like understanding how God works in our lives and like what he pushes us into and understanding how to flow in that. It seems like you have a good understanding of that because to an extent, because I mean, well, I guess to simplify the question or maybe give you a prompt, we kind of have a culture in America where you're kind of told to go down one path in life.
Right.
You know, you're like, oh, well, get this job and learn how to do this skill and do that skill for your career and provide for your family. And not to say that's a bad thing to do, but can you kind of talk about like the nature of God and what he brings us into? Because in my mind, it's like not necessarily just like one dimensional.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously there are times when, like you said, I mean, what's the verse where a man plans his steps, but the Lord, you know, directs his path.
His ways. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many times when you think like, and I think like, oh, it's going to be this certain way. Like it's just going to be this smooth sailing and we're just going to sail off in the sunset and great. And then things just don't go the way that you plan, you know, like, and like, those are the times when you, like I said, it legit might be something that we go through in He Will Love First that I end up using when I'm 65, you know, or I have an experience with God that like builds my history, my personal relationship with him in a way that like the biggest thing I do could be a conversation I have with my grandson when I'm 70, you know, like it's just so much bigger than like exactly how you picture it. You know, like we're going to create this company and it's going to grow this big and we're going to do it just like this. Like
you're like, I'm going to impact these specific people. Yeah. God's like, yeah, but what about all these people that I want you to impact?
Yeah. And in business and in life, like the things that, like the biggest thing you do in your business is probably not something that's in your business plan. Like it's probably a connection that you make like off chance, you know, like a random idea, like little things like that.
Person in an elevator that you strike up a conversation with.
Yeah. And then in life, like the biggest thing you do, it might not be something that's on your bucket list. It might not be what you think is going to be the biggest impact, you know, like, so having that mentality again, like of just being available every day to grow and like trusting God, like, you know, it's not about me and you're doing something if I'm just available for it, you know. And there's a verse that, I don't know, I just kind of thought of that. I think it was like in, Psalm something it's a Psalm, but it's like
Psalm's a big book.
Yeah. It's in there, but it's like the righteous man.
It's like somewhere between like chapter 1 and 119.
Yeah. But it's like the righteous man is not afraid of bad news. And I was just like, man, that's like challenging, you know, like first off, why are you righteous? It has nothing to do with you. You know, your righteousness is through the blood. And so if you are reliant fully on your identity because of the blood of Christ, then like, how would you come to a point where you're like not afraid of bad news? You know, like that's hard for me. Cause I think all the time, like I have a son now. What if there's bad news that came about my son? Like, dude, that would just mess with you. And like, that's what anxiety is just thinking about, you know, what bad thing could happen and bad things are going to happen. But like, if you are fully locked in on your identity in the blood, you know, and in your relationship with Jesus and your identity in him, then you trust that whatever news comes, like you're still with him, you know, you're still like, he'll be there, you know, because a righteous person is fully reliant on the blood, you know? And so, I think having that mentality of like, everything could crash and burn, business could just not work out. Like maybe who knows what could happen, but like being like, there is a way that you can go or a life that you can live where you're so reliant on your identity that you don't have to be afraid of bad news. Like bad news can come and you'll be okay, you know? So that's been challenging me recently. So
I definitely see your point there. And to bring it to like, even to put it a little bit in like layman's terms, or just like bring it into culture today. I was talking to a friend of mine and we're having a similar conversation. And for me personally, an example that brought to the front of my mind was the movie Divergent, if you've seen it. And I watched it recently again and just kind of like saw some of the deeper meanings behind it, you know, and, you know, you have your 5 factions in there and in that society. And then they're afraid of the divergent people because the divergent people basically like act within all 5 of those personality or like ways of thinking. And they have these like tests that they put them through. And so like the actress Shailene Woodley, she's like in these tests, and like all these bad things are happening to her like actively. And she, as a divergent person, she's able to comprehend the reality that it's not actually happening to her. And so then she is able to kind of like pull herself up, look around, understand that, and then make like a rationalized decision. And I think about like a relationship with God like that as well, because whether something's happening to us actively or we just have like anxiety about something actually happening, you're able to see that like if all of that does happen, like what's the result of it? And for us, the result is being in the presence of the Lord. And having the grace and mercy put upon us and not being apart from him and in hell. And if you like look at everything, all things considered, and you see that reality, it puts everything that happens to us on earth in perspective. And you're like, oh, I guess it's really like not that bad. As crazy as it seems. It is crazy.
It's challenging.
It's like, it's true. It really isn't that bad. Even though death is horrible and being hurt is horrible, you know, any sort of accident that happens or misfortune, it's not as bad as being separated from the God of the universe and separated from like the most beautiful love you can ever tangibly feel. And that's just crazy.
It is crazy, and it's challenging because like for me, how I have to remind myself is like if I'm actually rooted in this news of Jesus, then like there is no news that would shake that. And so like everything else, again, I'm speaking to myself because this is the thing you have to wrestle with and like really let it be the root of your life. But if everything,
speak to yourself, bro, have a conversation with yourself right now.
If everything else fell away,
I'm not here.
Then like, if you have this identity, if you have this rooted, you know, rootedness, if you will, then everything's okay. Which is crazy. Like you said, it's crazy. Like you hear stories of like, how do you even live with that pain? Like tragedy after tragedy. And the good news is like, there you can, you know, like there is still good news that's like bigger than any pain, you know, in this world. So.
And I think it's just so cool, like that God gives us those prime examples, but he gives us extreme examples of that, you know, in the Bible, because obviously not everybody knows somebody or goes through something that's, you know, just seems like, I don't know, seems like the worst thing ever. But like we get to look at people like Job that went through hell on earth, if you want to call it that. And we get to see how he reacted to it. We get to see the result of someone who was close with God on like even just like a homie level. You know, he walked with God very closely, and I'm sure it did not bring God like joy to allow what happened to him to happen to him. But at the end of the day, like God knows all, and he knows that that's not the end all be all. And Job was able to see that too, because he walked so closely to him. You know, so it's cool to have examples like that for us, because we get to look at that and be like, okay, first of all, it puts things into perspective from like a severity standpoint of like how bad something actually is. Like, well, at least we're not Job, you know. But at the same time, he like shows us such a good example of like finding that joy and just being with God still, and being like, oh well, I still have God, so you ain't killed me yet.
The one thing that can't be shaken.
Yeah, that's really cool. I do have like a kind of theological question for you that goes along those lines. So like, what's in your eyes, what's the difference between, or how do you toe the line between like a friendship relationship with God and more of like a reverent fear of who he is and like his nature?
That is a deep theological question. Hit me with it. I don't know. I mean, I think it's doing life with him and like growing in him by approaching the scriptures in a way that is assuming that the Bible is right and like your preconceptions are probably not, like, and just like growing with him. Like you look at people that have been doing life with Jesus for, 50 years, 60 years, like they probably have a good idea, like you look at these people you look up to in the faith and they're not like calling Jesus my bro, but
is it bad to call Jesus your bro?
I don't, no, of course. But they have, like you said, they have that
the
reverence.
Next hat that's going to come out?
Yeah, Jesus is my bro, for sure. Yeah. But they, like you said, they have that reverence. Like they understand, they know their place. They've lived life, where they understand. I mean, it's the beginning of knowledge, right? To have a fear of the Lord, to understand how big God is. And then how, big his grace is and how much you need it, and like, as you go through life, you realize like, I was like broken, and apart from him, like I'm done, know? And then that obviously is going to push you into friendship with him because you're called into friendship. And like, if Jesus is drawing that close and you can actually have a deep relationship with him and grow in friendship with him, like you're going to draw close to that. Like if you recognize how much you need him and how like much he loved you. So yeah, I don't know. It's as far as like towing the line, it's just like getting to know him, like going to the Bible again, like before you read your Bible saying like, Lord, break away any preconceived notion that I have or what I think this scripture should be saying. And like, let me just see what you're trying to say and figure out who you are. And he does want to be your friend. And he's also a God that's bigger than the universe and powers beyond what we can even fathom. So you can't have one, not the other. But yeah, I think that's the joy of growing, somehow this God that is so big and so terrifying. And if, like in the Bible, you see people that are just hiding their face and angels are crying out, came close enough to be your friend. Like that's where the mix of those two is like the most amazing thing, like you're friends with the God that made all of this. Like that's crazy. And so, yeah, I think it's like searching that out. That's like the joy of knowing him, So I don't know.
And the fact that you're not the only one who's friends with him. Yeah. Like that's the thing too. We love exclusivity. I need Chaz Smith. I need my homie. He's good with words. We love exclusivity and being like, oh yeah, like I'm homies with God. I'm homies with the creator of the universe, or like, we name drop all the time. Yeah. But it's so cool that like he calls all of us children. Yeah. We're all in his corner. Yeah. We're all in his green room. Yeah. You want to say it that way? Yeah. Yeah. And like the verse that talks about like Jesus as our brother, like that's just like, we'll mess with you, like, like I have two sisters that I'm really, really close to. And so like thinking of like sibling type, like caring for someone and dude, crazy. So like, just like you said, searching that out and growing in this beautiful, like, mixed together idea of like this God that's bigger than anyone that came close and became a baby to know you. It's like, yeah, bro, that's the joy of it. I like what you said about like getting to know him as well, because you do get to know like both sides of him. I found something, when I was like researching this topic, found something online and I really liked it. It says, our problem is that we get our picture of God out of focus, which causes us to overemphasize either fear of God or familiarity with him. Yeah. If we focus too long on scriptures that emphasize God's love, mercy, and grace, we tend to lose sight of or begin to minimize the importance of his demand for holy living and a massive price of sin. And if we emphasize God's jealousy, wrath, demand of holiness, and disdain for sin for too long, we can lose sight of his grace, mercy, and love, and we can begin to adopt a perfect law-keeping attitude of the works.
Dang, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah. Same, bro. I couldn't find the words, but yeah.
Dude, yeah, that's so good. Like you, like I said, you have to search both of those out. Like they can't be one or the other.
It's all about balance.
Yeah, dude, that's good.
All about balance.
Who was that? Who said that?
I do not know. I am a terrible journalist.
I'll put it in the notes.
I'll put it in the notes for sure.
No, yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, whoever said that,
shout out
because you said it beautifully.
Yeah.
I want to talk about also just I guess like entrepreneurship and like your view on it. I guess, is it bad to grind? That's like the mentality. It's like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. Like I'm grinding.
Yeah.
Like working all the time.
I don't think it's bad. I mean, I think you should be working hard, but it can't become everything, you know, like the hustle culture of like, all I do is like, I never rest. Money. Yeah. Like I'm just doing it for money, but also like a Sabbath is holy because it's different than the other days, right? Like if your Sunday, you take a break from work, but then every other day of the week, you're just taking a break from work, then Sunday is no different than the other week, you know? And so I think there's an aspect of keeping the Sabbath holy by working really hard the rest of the days, you know?
Really?
And like,
say that again for the people in the back.
Yeah. But like,
and for me too.
But it is a challenge too, because like you get so swept up in like grinding and hustle and grow and like there has to be a reason for why you do it and things like that. But I think
it's crazy that we have such a problem taking one day off.
Yeah.
It's just one.
I know. It's weird. It's hard.
1 out of 7. We're like, nah.
Yeah.
Nah, I got more to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that'll show you where your, priorities are for sure. And it is hard. Like I'm first one, like it'll be a couple hours into the Sabbath and you're like, kind of want to start working.
Yeah. 100%.
So, yeah. It's challenging.
As we're recording this on a Sunday.
Yeah.
No, we're doing the Lord's work, guys.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that you can, like many other things we've talked about, like going one way too far to, compared to the other. If there's someone like, I need to just rest all the time and like never work hard, like God's like, I'm calling you to like work hard, you know, like God's given you talents and opportunities and time, and you're born in a time where you have a cell phone where you can connect with anyone and reach out to that person that you met in high school, and like the opportunities you actually have are like crazy. And so like the times that I will just like make excuses, like, oh, it's like you're born for such a time as this, and like with talents and time and abilities and ideas, and like, you should invest your talents, the parable of the talents, obviously there's like, a story of one guy was like, I'll just kind of play it safe. And one guy was like, let's send it, and God is looking for the one that'll like go for it, like he wants you to go for it. But that being said, there's also like a dangerous side of making that your idol and just hustling and I'll sleep when I'm dead and all that type stuff. So to answer the question, I don't think it's bad to grind. Should grind. Yeah. But it should be in its place for sure.
Should it be like purpose driven?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Definitely needs to have a purpose for, why you're doing it, and just like growing, like I'm going to work hard to figure out what it is that I feel like my purpose is, or my calling specifically.
Yep.
Like if you don't know what your like career path is going to be, try a bunch of things, work really hard, like volunteer, like do a bunch of things until you figure out skills, figure out opportunities, meet people. And then, so don't let that slow you down, like knowing what your purpose is as far as work, your, vocationally.
Yep.
But yeah, I think, work hard and chase after, what God's calling you to.
Yeah, bro. Another thought that came up was like back to what you were saying earlier about trying different things too. And I liked what you said about like volunteer, put your time into like different things and find like what you feel called to. 'Cause I don't know, it's like God will give you desires as well, like on your heart. And like they'll be pretty cut and dry for the most part. They'll be simple, I think. Like, I'm a firm believer that God gives us simple desires.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's for a reason, because we complicate things already. So like, we shouldn't have these like complex like plans in place. You know.
Yeah.
You know, we do plan, but God directs, and God usually directs like in a very simple manner.
Yeah.
And so I think like looking back on even ways that like I pursued things, I would always keep that in the back of my mind. And I'm really thankful I did, because it did simplify a lot of different decisions that I made, and continuing to make,
right.
you know, to try to follow God. And I don't know, it just kind of like gives a lot more peace too. Yeah. As well.
For sure. So. Yeah. It's good.
All right. I got one final question for you. So being created to create, what does it mean to you, I guess, to be a creative? Yeah.
I mean, I think it probably means a lot of different things, but I think, the one thing that is a common denominator in like what we were talking about, is like selflessness, or like I said, if you're like willing to be creative and God's calling you to be creative, you just always looking cool is probably off the table, you know, and that's what you're called to in a life with Christ. Like, it's not about you. Like, you're called to lay down your life. And so even, obviously that could be literally, but even figuratively, in the sense of being creative, you're probably going to embarrass yourself, and you can't just always think you're going to look the best and look the coolest and always succeed. So it's like another opportunity in life to get yourself out of the way and just kind of like be creative and grow with God in whatever that avenue is. It could be painting or communicating or making bracelets or whatever. So I think, being creative is a willingness to like get yourself out of the way and try new things with God, you know, and like, see if something's, you know, silly or dumb, or see if it's maybe people resonate with it and people connect with it and you can use it for, you know, the kingdom or whatever it may be. But yeah, I think, being able to get yourself out of the way and be like, God, is this a skill or an opportunity that you want me to step into? But yeah,
I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot, especially the selflessness and the removing yourself from the equation. Yeah. Because obviously we do have like ideas as a creative. Yeah. But usually we get in the way of ourselves.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of the fear of man, you know, like the fear of man gets in the way. But when you have a fear of the Lord and you're just like, this could be, I feel like God's calling me to this. I'm going to try it. It's a skill, like something I enjoy, whatever it may be. Being willing to just be like, it's not that serious. Yeah. It's not about me. Again, I feel like I've said that a lot.
You can't say it too much, bro.
It's not about you. But yeah, so, and it's fun. Like, just be available to do things with God. I think a quote I heard a long time was like, the best ability in the kingdom is availability. And like, that's it. Like, you just grow with him and you do things and you realize like I don't think that was really what you were telling me to do. Like, but I was faithful to try it. And, you know, sometimes you just learn, you know, his voice in growing in that. So.
Oh yeah, bro. I totally agree. I'm right there with you. Yeah. I think, when you're available to be with God, that's when he does like the best work in your heart too, you know? Yeah. And it's all kind of like an overflowing, like, thing too, you know? So it's not like, as we've been saying, it's not, you can't predetermine it. You can't manifest it. Right. It's just an overflowing of like God's working in your heart. You're allowing that to happen. You have the free will to let him in or not. Yeah. But when you let him in, it's just this like, abundant overflowing. Yeah. Yeah.
Life's better. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Well, thank you, bro. Thank you for coming on. Do you have anything exciting in the works for He Would Love First, or anything else in your life other than?
Yeah, no, just growing up in it and learning and nothing in particular. Obviously, just trying to be creative. Hopefully partner with some ministries coming up here.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, just, you know, doing the thing.
Sick, bro.
Growing a child.
Exactly.
Raising a kid. So,
well, I'm excited to see all the new merch that you come out with. I mean, I've loved pretty much everything that's come out.
Yeah,
I won't say everything, you know, obviously there's some pieces.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love this hat. I love this hat as well. As you can see, we got sweat stains on it. So it means I wear it all the time.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
So yeah, it's, you make good stuff. So keep doing it.
Thank you, bro. Yeah.
Keep pointing people to God.
Appreciate
it's important.
It. Yeah. You too, man. I love this podcast. So
thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing and growing up in it and being creative.
Thank you, bro.
Stepping into it. It's not about you.
No. I think I've tried to make it about me lots of times.
Yeah.
And it fails miserably. Yeah. Miserably.
Yeah. You're doing a great job.
To the point where I forget how to talk sometimes.
Yeah.
When this is about talking, I'll forget how to talk because I'm like like trying to plan out everything I say.
Yeah.
I have like a few notes on here. I don't know if you can see it. A few notes, but I used to have like tons.
Word for word.
Oh my gosh. Actually, bro.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Dude.
It's bad.
Well, you're doing a great job.
You learn, you know?
Yeah.
You definitely learn and you get humbled too.
Yeah.
Just
keep showing up.
Keep showing up. That's it. Cool. Well, I appreciate you.
Thank you, bro.
Guys,
appreciate it, man.
See you on the next episode. Later.
See you.